Hi everyone and welcome. We are live on Behance. This is the Adobe Live show and I have a special guest today. Maybe you want to introduce yourself.
My name is Scott and I can't believe I'm on Behance Live. When our team created Behance in 2005, I never thought there would be a Behance Live, Behance Live experience. This is pretty amazing.
Yeah, remember we have just celebrated like the 10-year anniversary, so it's been all right.
It's kind of gone quickly, and in some ways it really didn't.
Yeah,
but it's good to be here.
And yeah, we are also here for special, amazing, creative campaign. You saw the title, Hidden Treasures, so you will get more details today. But we have amazing guests, including Scott, but we have more. So maybe we can display the schedule. So
you have even better guests after me, so show the schedule.
They will be judging. They all say, hi, Scott. Yeah, we see Claire. Hi, Scott. Right. Hi, Prince. So this week on Adobe Live, so we will start with you, and then we will welcome Erik Spiekermann, the typeface designer, with Caterina Bianchini. She will create one poster a day. Then we will welcome Jeroen, he's a motion designer. He will animate some typefaces. And Philipp Trottmann, he's a UX designer from Germany. And he will work in Adobe XD to prototype an experience that also is connected to typography. And you will quickly understand why this is all about typography, typefaces this week. Because yeah, there is this new campaign, Hidden Treasures, working closely with the Bauhaus. So it will be
a lot of projects all start with typography. I mean, actually, for Behance, the first thing we ever did when we were building Behance was we designed the actual logo using Helvetica Neue, and it was just like this typographic few weeks of exploration before we actually decided to do anything else. So, sort of full circle.
Yeah, we should talk about Helvetica with Erik Spiekermann. He has an interesting take.
I'm sure most people do.
So yeah, so Behance, 10 years today. Yeah, so Scott, if you didn't understand, is one of the founders of Behance. So how would you describe the evolution and how do you see the future of Behance and this amazing creative community?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, my role in the creative career started back in 2005, 2006 with Behance, and then of course Behance became a part of Adobe. Oh, great, nice background.
Something great. Yeah.
And now, you know, in this new role as Chief Product Officer at Adobe, focusing on all the creative products, it's kind of it's amazing to double down on the creative community and make sure that our products are really focused on what the creative community's needs are over the coming years. But Behance, the original idea of Behance was to help organize the creative world and help people showcase and discover work. In a very efficient way, recognizing that all creativity is coming out of other people seeing what other people are doing. I mean, creativity is like the world's greatest recycling program.
And that's what I really like with Behance, is that it's not only like people showcasing their work, but I'm pretty sure you have also tons of visitors who just browse Behance to just enjoy, you know, creative work.
Oh, totally. I mean, the number of people who always would come to Behance was way, way, way larger than the number of people that actually were posting work on Behance, because it was everyone else admiring their creations that generated the majority of the traffic and engagement on the platform. So this is our 10-year kind of anniversary review of the things that we kind of the milestones and major elements of the evolution of the product.
Yeah, look at this figure.
Yeah, it's. But really, I mean, the tragedy of a lot of creative careers is you do all this amazing work that never gets discovered, never gets viewed. And Behance was really designed to help optimize that, you know, just to make sure that you got as much exposure as possible, and therefore opportunity.
So we have Alexander in the chat who agrees. He says, Behance idea is great. Okay, so you have validation from Alexander.
Okay, well, Alexander thinks so, so we're all good.
And don't hesitate, if you have questions from Scott, okay, I will keep an eye on the chat, and we'll try to make it interactive, so that's awesome.
Thanks. Thanks, Yuri.
And yeah, and now you have live streaming on Behance, you know, as you said.
Amazing. So if I look up, I'm looking at the UI of Behance right now, and if maybe the logo's up over there, you know, it's
somewhere there.
That's kind of cool,
live tab
to be
here
in Behance.
And so what is your role today at Adobe?
Yeah, so today I am focused on helping make our products more powerful for creative professionals and also more accessible for everyone else that wants to create. I mean, I actually think that we have a lot of progress to be made on both fronts. I mean, on the power of the tools themselves, you think about new and emerging fields like experience design, You think about new ways of working, collaborating, sharing prototypes, getting feedback. You think about new mediums like augmented reality and voice. I mean, the one thing we always know about the creative world is that it's always changing, and the products need to evolve with the needs of our customers. And I think we can always be doing better at that. And we have some amazing stuff in the roadmap for Creative Cloud in the years ahead. So much so that I feel like this is my dream job right now to help make that happen. But at the same time, we have another responsibility, which is to make our products more accessible to more people. Yeah. So many people come in and say they want to Photoshop something, and then they open up Photoshop and they're like, oh my goodness, where do I get started? Or people say, I want to make the stuff that I'm working on 3D. I want to use a product like Dimension. And they open up Dimension and they don't know where to get started. Or they want to make the migration to experience design with Adobe XD. And so we need to make our products very accessible, easy to learn, because that's ultimately outfitting people to be successful with their creativity.
This is great. And so you were also, and this is something I think we shared like a few weeks ago, that we're working also on augmented reality.
Oh yes,
so
we are.
How do you see it part of the creative process?
Well, I think, first of all, with augmented reality, I really believe that we're going to be living in a augmented world.
And we're actually playing a video in the background.
Greater than we can actually imagine it. So actually the video you're seeing right now is the workflow for placing an augmented reality, or an object in augmented reality. Oh, okay. So the person started in Photoshop, went to Dimension, made it 3D. Now they saved it to Project Arrow, which is a new project we're working on at Adobe. Yeah. And then they're placing it in an environment, and working with Apple, we've actually partnered to make it very easy to not only publish author creative experiences to AR, but then have their customers discover them.
Yeah, like we were mentioning that we're working on a standard, like
yes.
with Apple.
USDC is the new standard. It's Apple, Pixar, and us. Came together to help make this happen, and you can see, I mean, just the possibilities here are endless. I mean, that video is meant to show the potential of AR, but the application is well beyond just art, which we just saw. Although all great things start as art, I think. But I really believe we'll enter stores, we'll walk around cities, we'll walk around down the streets and see the ratings and which friends of ours are in which restaurants. All of this stuff will come to life, over the world that we experience every day. But you know what? None of this is going to happen unless creatives are able to work with their existing tools to contribute to AR. Just like in the world of print, we had to help people make that migration from print to web, and then we again had to help people go from web to mobile and responsive web. Once again, we really want to help partner with our customers to bring them into the worlds of augmented reality as well as voice and VR as well.
This is awesome. They are very excited in the chat too. Like I said, awesome. This is great. Yeah, you can discover this video actually. It's on the Adobe Creative Cloud YouTube channel. This is Project Arrow, so I really invite you to. That's exciting. Also in San Francisco last week there was an exhibition actually.
We did. We did a bit of a festival where we had artists. We gave them early access to some of these tools that are still under development, and wanted to see what they would imagine and bring to life. And it's extraordinary. And of course, these days you're holding up an iPad or holding up a phone of some sort and experiencing an augmented reality experience. And who knows, maybe someday we'll be wearing glasses or special contacts or something, and we'll see the world come to life around us. But things like what we did last week in San Francisco help us understand the possibilities.
This is great. And also something I wanted to ask you, because like you're working on these new tools to make them more accessible, like for everyone who wants to become creative. And as you are shaping, the future of these tools, like how do you involve the community? When we go live on Adobe Live, we go live with a lot of UX designers. They work with Adobe XD, and we really testify the evolution of Adobe XD. We really involve the community. So is it something that you want to become
as a builder of community, I obviously agree. One of the things that I think we are all liable to do that is negative is we get so passionate about a solution we think is right that we stop spending enough time with customers to really gain the empathy to make sure that it's right, or oftentimes to find an entirely new solution that we didn't even expect. And so one of the things I'm always trying to push our teams to do, and they're largely pretty good at, is getting in as much time shoulder to shoulder with customers as possible. Okay. We have to experience the friction that our customers have in our products to make them better, right? And we can't intellectualize it, we have to live it. Another way to do that is to empower the designers within our organization at Adobe to have a greater say in the products that are being shipped and the designs we're putting together. So there are a lot of great changes happening, actually, in terms of how we build product across the company now to make the experiences more design-centric and build empathy with our customers.
Oh, this is great. And actually, so we have a new live show that we started a few weeks ago. We go live every week on Friday at 12 p.m. Pacific time. It's called Designing Adobe XD. It's an opportunity to directly engage with the XD team.
Which they love, and they benefit so much from that. And our customers need to know that that our products are only going to be as good as as they help us with their feedback and their requests and everything else. I mean, ultimately, we're serving the creative community. We have to have an ear to the ground, and we have to make sure that we are prioritizing as well.
And talking about community, so yesterday we released an amazing campaign. And before talking more about it, what we should do is maybe play a video that will introduce us to this amazing project. And it will be just vibrant this week with all our guests. But let's play the video first and you will understand what we're talking about.
Only 14 years after its birth, the iconic Bauhaus School of Design was shut down by the Nazi regime. Many treasures and unfinished masterpieces were left behind, lost to the world. Founded on the central idea of training a new generation of artists to create a better world, Bauhaus laid the foundation for modern design as we know it and changed creativity forever. But in 1930s Germany, the progressive ideas of the Bauhaus were considered threatening and the school's closure became inevitable. But sometimes, what's been lost to history can be brought back. The influence of Bauhaus lives on, and now you can design with a piece of living history.
Wow, this is exciting.
It's like an action thriller for typography.
So dramatic.
Really exciting, and I also love leveraging all of the pipes we have throughout our products with Typekit for fonts to be accessed and distributed across all the products you use. And when you do a campaign like this, you realize how powerful and helpful that is.
Yeah, I was discussing with some friends, and we were working in agencies like a long time ago, like maybe 20 years ago, and we remember that using a new typeface, like you have to be like very convinced that it was the right typeface because you had to order a typeface and you will receive a floppy disk 3 days after. When today you just browse Typekit and say, okay, I will try this one. Okay, it's good, I will license it. So with this campaign, Erik Spiekermann will be with us in a few minutes and explain what we did. But basically, lost typefaces from the 20s, and he worked with amazing design students to bring them to life again, and now they're available for you. So 2 typefaces are available for you on Typekit, and actually we challenge our community today. We challenge them to download the Typekit and also create a brand identity with these typefaces, and check the challenge tab. We will give away a Creative Cloud licenses, Creative Cloud subscriptions, all day long to the best logo. So yeah, this will be fun. So we want you to get the typefaces, be creative, and you will also get live critique from all our guests, Caterina, Erik. So this will be
I'm excited to see what comes out of this. That's great.
Yeah. Okay, Scott, I think you have a busy week, but thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Michael, for having me.
In Paris. And stay tuned, we will be back in about 3 minutes with Caterina Erik Spiekermann, and the show will be hosted by Christine Arth.
You're all in for a treat.
Yeah, okay. Bye everyone, see you in 2 minutes.
2 minutes, all right.
Yeah.
The Bauhaus guys, they wanted to say, okay, we're engineers and we're also artists, so we want to make things that people can understand.
Most people think of Bauhaus through architecture or product design, you know, tables, chairs, and so on.
Make it simple, make it easy to construct. And they thought the same could be brought to type. Throw away ornaments, throw away bits and pieces like serifs.
There was this big obsession at the Bauhaus about geometry. If you have very limited parameters, like a square, the circle, the diagonal, the system is guiding you. This is maybe some kind of Bauhaus strategy and practice.
One of the projects where we're trying to keep the Bauhaus heritage alive is a project with Adobe, focusing on typography.
We gave them very little brief, just say, you know, take this and make it into type. None of them were really typefaces, they were sketches, exercises actually. As themselves, they are beautiful, whether they're letters or not. We've already seen some interesting dialogues with the students that are doing this with us.
What I got is a sketch which retains a lot of handwriting atmosphere.
It's not as wobbly as it looks in the reproduction, right?
Yeah.
It looks pretty straight.
Creating a typeface based on just one sketch is quite difficult because I can't see enough what his goals as an artist were.
And then there's some of them, we don't really have the original sketches, we just have what they did with them. They made posters, so they are kind of applied already in all their primitiveness. We're finishing a project that we don't even know where it was supposed to go. We just put it out in the world and let it go.
Welcome to Behance. We're just making fun of Erik's hair, no big deal. Welcome to Adobe today. We're here with Erik Spiekermann, and he's recently completed 5 typefaces for Bauhaus Dessau Foundation. No?
I did not complete anything. I just helped the kids do it.
Just a few. And we're going to learn about the future of design. We're recently completing those Bauhaus Dessau fonts, but we're also going to be able to download those. So if you guys want to, you can download them now on the Challenge tab, and you can utilize those. And then to my left, or to your right, we have Caterina Bianchini here, and she will be using the typefaces to design posters this week. So stick with us all week because it's going to be pretty awesome. Welcome both.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi.
So I'd love to have both of you talk a little bit about yourselves. I think that we'll start with Caterina, and then we'll move on to you.
Okay, so my name is Caterina Bianchini. I run a small design studio in East London. I kind of started out doing a lot of music posters, experimenting a lot with typography, color, and that kind of led on to me now eventually having my own little studio, which is amazing. I think my work usually sort of deals with like a lot of color, vibrancy, trying to be quite illustrative, quite graphic in my approach. And also I tend to kind of go against most of the graphic design rules and create something that's a bit more intriguing, a little bit more interesting, and a bit more captivating.
I like that. Cool. I'm excited. Yeah, your body of work is wonderful, so you guys are in for a treat. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then we have this very fresh face next to me, Erik Spiekermann. I'm sure no one's ever heard of him.
I wouldn't presume. I wouldn't presume.
So Erik, can you tell us a little bit about why you're here today?
I was asked by Adobe maybe half a year ago to find young designers who could turn these old sketches, that's all there were, ideas, into existing typefaces. And I happily agreed and went out and found 5 schools and a designer from each school. And we showed them this amazing stuff that from the Bauhaus archives, and they all went to it and they did the most amazing stuff, and I'm very, very happy and I'm very proud of having done this.
That's amazing. So what schools did you end up working with?
Well, I mean,
were they all in Germany?
No, no, of course not. That would not be done. No, there aren't all that many schools that have a dedicated type design course. So we, of course, went to New York, the Cooper Union. We went to The Hague in the Netherlands, and to Reading outside of London in England, to Lausanne in Switzerland,
Wonderful.
and to Leipzig in Germany. So we have a mix. We have people from, I think, actually we have 2 Germans, 1 Japanese, 1 Brazilian, and 1 Italian who studied in Switzerland. So I think we have Europe covered. We have the United States not covered, but we have somebody there.
Amazing.
Don't forget, we had a very tight deadline, and these people were actually in the middle of doing their diplomas or bachelors or whatever they were doing. So it was very generous that they actually agreed to spend some time with us on a 4-week deadline.
Oh, that's very tight.
It was very tight.
That is a very tight deadline.
But you know, without deadlines, you never do anything.
It's true. It's true. When you're under pressure, you work your best.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I have some of the fonts here, at least some of the part of your presentation that we could walk through. And yeah.
I'm just seeing that people saying they can't hear me. It's not for lack of voice.
Oh no, he's super loud. Maybe we can put. It's good? Okay. All right. Well, yes. Chat, before we jump into the presentation, we have a contest today. So if you look on your challenge tab, to the right of the screen, you'll see that you can download the fonts, create a logo from those fonts, and then we will then judge them and submit later. So around in an hour or so, we'll be looking at all of your submissions, and there'll be a contest to win some posters created by some of the guests that have been on Adobe. So it'll be a pretty good contest.
I like this, 1 hour deadline.
Yeah, 1 hour deadline, that's right. So download the fonts now. I mean, it's no 4 weeks, but you know, you're creating a logo, not a font, so. All right, so let's get into Bauhaus Dessau. Let's take a look. So we're talking a little bit about how did you find these and what happened?
Actually, we didn't. I don't know who. There was somebody. Adobe did this project earlier with the Edward Monk's brushes that they dragged out of some wherever, and they had out of Norway. And the same people who did that project came up and said, well, let's do something else. Let's do this hidden treasure project where we find stuff that may be useful for today's people. And then somebody said, Bauhaus, you know, these guys did stuff almost 100 years ago now. And there may be something in there that we should look at and apply our new digital tools to it. And so we went to the Bauhaus, the Adobe people went, and we also went and looked at this amazing stuff they have buried in their drawers there, and we picked a few of them from. I think we had like maybe 15 or 20 possible typefaces there. Wow. We picked those 5, and then found 5 designers for them, and then said, look, you get first choice. Whoever wants this one, or that one, and they all went for a different one, luckily.
Oh, that's great.
So within 2 days, they had been decided. I found some of them a little more intimidating than others. But I was surprised how everybody, those 5 people, just went to it straight away. There was no hesitation. There was no like, I don't know what to do. They immediately understood it. They knew what you had to do to make a sketch into a typeface or an idea into characters. And there was very little, if any, interference from us. We just looked at stuff, had a few suggestions. Some of us went to the Bauhaus ourselves, as seen in that movie, and we looked at the originals, which is always a revelation, because we know this stuff, as in here, from sketches, from images, from videos, from slides or whatever, but to actually go there and hold those sketches, which are actually large, and post it in your own little hands is quite a revelation.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure it's really exciting to be able to see where it came from and, you know, feel the paper. It's always a much more exhilarating thing to have the tactility.
It wasn't quite as big as on the screen.
No, not that big.
A little intimidated here.
Not that big. Oh, but this is a good reflection of what size they were. Wow.
They weren't quite that big. I mean, they weren't bigger than my head.
No.
No, but they were like, you know,
large
whatever.
posters. Yes.
In Europe, we say A1.
A1.
In America, whatever that is, you know, 30 by 40 or whatever. Yeah, give and take. So they were large ones that took a table, and they all had that nice sort of patina on them. They were drawn by hand.
Wow.
They've been in drawers for 90 years. So they have this incredible quality that all stuff does acquire over time.
Yeah.
And they were certainly hand drawn. I mean, there was no software involved whatsoever.
Incredible.
Than rulers and pencils and brushes.
Yeah, it's really incredible to see these. I mean, I think most of us watching right now are seeing them for the first time. So this is kind of like looking at the Bible or Noah's Ark or, you know, some old documents that are just hidden treasures they are.
Well, it makes me ask everybody out there, you know, if you've all seen the Mona Lisa and all those paintings and all the artwork, but you haven't seen it unless you've gone there. I mean, stand there in front of it, see the scale, see the detail. The scale itself is something that, you know, you look at a painting and on a screen, you have no idea what the scale is like.
Yeah.
You go there in real life and you're surprised that some of the paintings are terribly tiny. I remember seeing my first Mondrians. I was surprised they were like only that size.
Yeah.
Tiny. I was expecting them to be.
Yeah, I felt that way about the Mona Lisa. I was like, oh,
yeah,
that's it?
thing.
I was like, it's
but still, you know,
smaller than me.
standing there and there's some sort of vibe going on that
Yeah.
cannot ever be caught, not even with 1,000 hours of Photoshop.
Yeah, they're larger than life in your mind, yes.
And the same here. Just seeing the originals was quite incredible. This is already the work that Flavia did.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's lovely.
Who did a fantastic job. She went through so many choices and possibilities, making what essentially were very crude letter shapes into a functioning alphabet.
It's amazing. So can you talk a little bit about the stencil?
Well, she had, Jo Schmidt devised an alphabet from essentially squares and semicircles. She introduced one more alphabet. She actually introduced a full circle, a bullet, which helped make a connection. And to take those crude elements and make them into letter shapes, you have to decide, is it going to be purely ornamental? Is it going to be legible? So what we found here, some of those characters are amazing shapes, but you can't tell whether it's an M or a W unless you have it in context, which is fine because, you know, the whole point about typography is that you have words. And you can make the most amazing shapes. You can probably take those apart, and I hope that we'll see some of this later, and explode them into pages. We still want to read them because we have this human tendency wanting to read words as soon as we see something like there could be words. But if you take them apart, they are very beautiful, very simple elements. And there's this decision, when does a character become an ornament? When does an ornament become a character? You put 3 or 5 of them together, you change the spacing slightly, and everything changes. So this is very much an exercise in discipline, in knowing where the limits are of what we identify as letters, as characters, or where they become ornaments, where they become images again, which, you know, after all, where our alphabet came from. So I think it's both an intellectual exercise, a design exercise, and a typographic exercise. And I'm 150% happy with what Flavia came up with. It was just, it's a joy to work with her. And if you look at some of those shapes, they are so inventive and so sweet and so progressive at the same time. I can't wait to use it myself.
Yeah, let's get in here and look at some of these. It's pretty amazing. All the characters.
I mean, all-star figures, you know, who would have thunk that we could all get all-star figures out of, I mean, look at that 5, you know, we had issues, of course. The 5 doesn't, you know, on its own, it's kind of like a little, you know, but when is it going to be on its own? Nobody's going to fill out their lottery labels with that one.
No.
You know, it's not, you're not going to have timetables set out that typeface.
It's quite
But look at the choices
though.
there. I mean, isn't that beautiful or what?
Yeah.
And she managed to do accents and sort of ligatures and stuff. Look at that H, who has the little dot in them. That's her invention. Joost Schmidt didn't have that in there. I just think, and it's asking for us actually to outline this in Illustrator even, and start redoing your own. You know, who says you're going to keep it out? I mean, she offers us those elements. She's taken some choices. There are alternatives for most characters. I'm not sure whether they're in this font already, but there are alternates everywhere.
It's quite
But you
playful.
can take it apart and reassemble it yourself.
Yeah,
it's asking for that.
I could see iconography created from the T alone, just because it starts to already look like a person.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty limitless.
So they're not just letters, they're actually tools to communicate, to build images, to do whatever. And that's why I'm so totally happy. I mean, I can't do colors, you know, I can only do black and red. But I'm waiting for someone to use color on this.
Well, it's quite
somebody
lovely.
right
yes,
there.
I mean, she's going to be designing over here.
Totally.
So while we're chatting away.
All I can see, she's got the color palette open. That frightens me.
Yeah, so I think Caterina, with that being said, she's going to start designing.
Yeah, cool.
And while we're chatting away, she's going to be working, and we can sneak peeks as she goes along.
I mean, look at that ampersand. Isn't that a cute little character there between your Schmidt and flower and the body?
It's incredible. So is this one of the documents? And talk a little bit about this.
Which documents?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I haven't
Actually,
seen
there
that.
we go. We're on this,
Thank you. Yes, the originals.
Page.
Yes, this was obviously this is the one that Luca based his design on.
Mm-hmm.
This is from Chante Shavinsky. Luca actually had done this already as a ready-made typeface before he joined the project. He'd offered this to Adobe, and I said, "This is so cool. Why don't we go back and bring this into the Bauhaus project?" Because the guy was a student there. So this is kind of like, and I think it's fantastic that an Italian who studies in French-speaking Switzerland takes something that has a sort of Bodoni feel about it. It's definitely a modern, a classicist typeface.
It's beautiful.
And he's managed to keep the elegance, but at the same time reduce it to those very, very few, and not quite as simple as the ones that Flavia used from the Jo Schmidt stuff, but they're still essentially just a few circles and squares, but then the little connectors which don't close. So it's stencilish, it's delicate. If we look at the font that Luca came up with in the end, there's like, for example, an FFI ligature in there, which looks like a building, looks like a cathedral. He did really well in keeping that delicate touch, but making it a usable typeface. It's really actually quite useful and quite beautiful at the same time.
Yeah, the G is lovely. The bowl is so...
Which brings us to actually the biggest premise in this project is, so see, you would go in and look at the stuff and say, this is so beautiful, how can I dare? So those are some of our remarks on there.
Yeah, I love this.
We didn't have to do very much because all these 5 people were so very good at their work. It was almost felt a little embarrassing to have to direct them, but we were just asking questions. Could we look at this and could we look at that?
Collaborating.
But yeah, collaborating. But what was the most amazing thing is there that we asked ourselves, and they asked themselves also, so if this guy way back then, Shavinsky had a computer and Glyphs or Font Lab or whatever, Robo font, one of those softwares that we use, or Illustrator, what would they have done? I mean, they did pen and ink. I'm sure they would have loved those tools.
Oh, I'm
and
sure.
And they would have not only drawn typefaces, but they would have made a font. Because that's the one thing that is the main distinction between what we used to do and what we do now. Even in the old days, when I drew type in the 70s, I drew typefaces.
Right.
I drew them. I didn't make a font. I had to pass them on to a couple of people who digitized them, reproduced them, made them into fonts, into physical objects. Now the type designer, which is good and bad, it makes it more work, of course, not only designs the typeface, but it makes a font. Does all the spacing, does all the kerning, if any, and then makes it into something that we, or the type designer herself, can use today, which is a fantastic opportunity that I remember not having.
Yeah.
You know, being able to have your own type is fantastic.
Well, even with 3D printing now, it's almost as though the designers in so much control they could even print their own.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about it. The 3D printing is great, and we're using it. I've had some small type printed. The trouble is at the moment, the material, the powder, whatever it's called, I think it's about the same price as cocaine. Oh. Not that I know what cocaine costs exactly, but I'm saying it's expensive.
You heard it here first, everybody.
It's very expensive.
Very expensive.
I know that we print like 5 centimeter, 2 inches for your Americans letter in 3D printing in some plastic, whatever it is. It's in plastic, and it's about €5, $5 for it. I can cut the same letter in maple wood for $1. So the technology is there, the materials are still really expensive.
Yeah,
but it's happening, obviously.
Yeah, it's interesting that you've already started to work with that. I was wondering if you had.
Well, we make our own wood type, which of course is totally stupid, but
no, I think that's
somebody
great.
has to do it.
Somebody has to do it. I'm glad it's you. Yeah, again, looking at these up in detail, the close detail is so gorgeous.
Well, I like so that the little serifs are very straight and very, very mechanical almost, but and the little dots that are sort of bounce around there. So it's very mechanical, but at the same time it's incredibly joyful. Yeah. They are like clowns' noses, those little
little bobbles there, the G
like
dot,
the bouncing
I
dot
dot.
when you sing a song.
It is absolutely. I mean, it is so joyful,
Yeah.
but it's also incredibly disciplined and quite mechanical in execution. And some letters work better than others. I mean, the X actually is a little too wide. You know, if Luca had started from scratch, I'm sure he would have made the X a little narrower. But he had to go with what the original Bauhaus sketches were, and only change them a little bit, only make them work today, not sort of design them from scratch. And that, I think, is the most difficult part for a type designer. It's almost easier to start on your own and do anything.
Right, because it's from your own hand.
Yeah, but having to go and sit there, what if that
What
guy,
would they do? Yes.
what would he have done
Yeah.
had he had my tools? And again, I think they've really done both the original artist and sketches justice and today's requirements. These are working fonts.
I love it.
I wouldn't want to set War and Peace out of them. You know, that's,
that might be a little difficult to read long
that might
form.
be a little difficult to read.
Maybe just some poetry, German poetry.
You haven't read German poetry, obviously.
No, I have. That's why it was a joke.
We have very long words.
Oh, too funny. Noting the end of the Z, the bar on the Z is really nice, and it's also a bit different. And it's interesting that they didn't make that just a flat.
Well, that was the whole. You don't know what the teachers told them. I mean, if you look at Jo Schmidt, the one we saw earlier, he was one of the teachers in that course, and they were, of course, all asked to use a grid sheet and only use geometric elements, you know, circles, squares. But of course, they soon realized, the students did, that wasn't getting them very far into making a legible typeface. So some just pushed the brief a little bit, left the brief even, or probably said, you know, sort the brief, I'm going to make it more legible, and therefore I need a triangular shape. I need to move a little bit towards the tradition of, in this case, Bodoni, the thicks and the thins, but still have it sort of fairly crudely graphic. That ampersand there, for example, it sort of looks like some guys going over and, you know, boxing with the glove or something. I think they're all incredible. They're all little people.
Yeah,
they're all characters. They're going to start walking off the screen any minute now.
I sure hope so.
And that lowercase a there with a sort of like, it's taken his head back a little. I think it's sort of thinking.
It's a little leaning.
Maybe I'm putting too much into it. And that joyful lowercase g there. Look at that swerve at the bottom and that little sort of bob cap.
That's
it's
lovely.
just, I find it just very, very joyful.
Well, and the breaks in the type, what's cool about this, in my opinion, is that it looks as though it's connected, and it's saving some ink. So if you were to print it out today, it's a little bit...
Yeah, let's not go to that argument. I'm not sure, but what it actually does, and not only makes it a little bit more playful, it also avoids a lot of issues, because where the thin strokes meet the thick strokes, as we see in some of the other exercises, you get issues. You get little dark spots, you get blobs, so you have to have cut-ins and stuff. So this avoided it by not touching the lights and the darks. And from the distance, you don't see that anymore, but when you get close in...
When you get close, you do.
Yeah,
it's quite
you
detailed.
tear the elements apart.
Yeah, just for those of you who are
And look at that
watching.
character set, you know, there's even some Greek in there. There's all the accents you would need within the Latin alphabet.
These G's are so interesting with the double dots.
For all those guys out there who need to set Romanian or Maltese, it's there.
This is your font. And for those of you following along right now, you can download 2 of them. The rest of them will be able to be downloaded in the future, so you'll have to come back for those. But right now, you're able to download the first 2, and those are released on behance.com.
And that one you see in the background now, if you do, that's also going to be up soon.
Oh, that one in the background?
Well, not that one, but the modern take on that one.
Yes. Nice. Let's see. We'll get back to...
Well, this is another release coming up. I don't know when.
Oh, and...
Are we allowed to look at that already?
I think so. It's in your presentation.
It is?
Yes.
Yeah, we did see it on the movies, right?
So you have just under an hour to share your challenge entry with us for this segment. And now that we're taking a peek over at Caterina's screen, pretty exciting. Maybe we can talk a little bit about what you're up to over here.
Cool.
Using color, which Erik doesn't do.
I do. I would use red.
Oh, good, yeah.
But red and black.
And white. White is a color.
And white. Yeah.
Noted.
Okay. No, I agree with this. So I've basically kind of come up with a theme for today, which is to look at color, specifically Joseph Albers, who was a student at the Bauhaus. And he did a lot of these sort of experimentations with interaction of color and seeing how color like sits next to one another. What, you know, if you have like look at two colors on a screen and then look away, what color does your eyes create naturally? So quite interesting sort of experimentations. So today I want to try sort of using, now I'm going to try and say this correctly, the Yoshmi. Is that Yoshi?
Well, he's Jost Schmidt. I mean, our name scheme for now, barring arguments from various attorneys and stuff, is to take the first name and the second name and sort of make it into a new word. Because we thought, or we maybe think, we can't use the people's names because their estates have rights on them or whatever. So he goes Jost Schmidt. So Yoshmi would be. They might have called him that at school, even for all I know.
So I should say Jost Schmidt.
Jost Schmidt.
Jost Schmidt.
Jost Schmidt.
It's two words.
This is good. We're all learning here. Jost Schmidt.
Jost Schmidt.
Thank you, Erik.
So that's the typeface I'm going to play with today. And basically, I want to kind of explore color, explore these sort of really tiny sort of changes in like gradient form in color against one another. And then how does typography then interact with this when it's put on top? So at the moment, I've been looking at some of Joseph Alber's work, looking at some of the colors he uses, how he sort of creates this experimentation. You know, this is quite contrasty, but things where he would look at the sunrise and he would just take out little elements of the sunrise and create these really interesting geometric color sort of experimentations. So using this sort of idea, this theme, but building it into something that represents my work a little bit more in the sort of colors I use and how I develop things.
I'm excited to see this merge of the worlds. Yes, this is great. And there's red, which makes Erik very pleased.
Well, red is the origin typographic color.
Yes.
You know, as in Latin for rubrum.
And why did they use that?
Because it's an easy color to come by. It's a stone that you can crush, or terracotta, you know, sort of tiles were made that way. And the early reds in the manuscript were made from stone, and they were sort of a brownie red, a terracotta red, as it were, which means boiled earth, as our semi-Italian here would also know.
Boiled earth.
So that brownie red is still, to me, the classic typographic color.
Kind of like an Olivetti red?
Yeah, in our studio, we either use Pantone warm red, which comes, if you print it, we print letterpress, comes across as fairly orange, very, very bright, sort of tomato red. But we love day glow.
Nice.
So we have orange, magenta, blue, and red day glow colors, which are
pretty
bright.
I like. Yeah.
They are pretty. Everybody loves them. They're a bitch to clean up because they just don't wipe off easily, and they go, you know, a week over a few years when exposed to sunlight. But they're just a great joy if you do something as old-fashioned as letterpress printing, and then you need use those modern colors. I like that contrast.
I noticed you liked day glow. I saw your socks.
Yeah, that's a safety issue because I'm on the bike all the time.
Oh,
and,
nice.
That people, if they don't see me, at least they see my socks.
They do, yeah. Or if you're sitting down, I was like, oh, those are good. Yeah, if you guys can see them here, very pink. They're very cool. I love them. Amazing. So, do we get to show the rest of this presentation?
Oh, I'm totally easy.
We do.
Yes, I've seen it all
I'm excited.
before.
You're like, I've seen it before. Well, I'm very excited.
I don't know when the other fonts are going to be released, but
probably
certainly
not for a little
upcoming.
while, but I think this can whet everyone's appetite as far as what's to look forward to.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this is actually one of the very few sketches that where the designer has done pretty much the complete alphabet. I mean, he's actually drawn type.
Yeah.
But it's hand-drawn. If you look at it, it's very irregular.
Yeah.
And sort
can
of a little
still see
wobbly
some
because it was done.
penmanship in here,
Yeah, we saw the original. It's probably done with one of those round nibs. So you get the stroke width is even all the time, and some of the characters are a little.
A little
naive,
irregular
crude even,
too with the bees.
But altogether it's really nice. And if you want to go to what Hidetaka did, our Japanese friend who studies at Reading, I mean, he was like, I think a day into the project he'd already done that.
Wow.
He was just so amazingly quick.
That's very quick.
So he digitized. Well, I mean, there are simple shapes to digitize. So he's obviously drawn them. not scan them in. I think he drew them from scratch, and then immediately said, okay, you know, what is the original weight? Because if you remember the sketch, there was all sorts of weights because the guy used a different tool. I don't know if anybody remembers those nibs. You get those pen and ink thingies with the round nibs, the flat nibs.
Yeah.
So you can use the diameter, use 1 millimeter or 2 millimeters, and that's what he must have done. Or a different size brush, whatever.
Interesting.
So he went in and did the same and said, okay, we can choose the weights. We said, well, hold your horses for now. Do 2 weights only, because otherwise this is not going to be done in 4 weeks.
It'll make everyone's heads expand.
Yeah. And he is doing, for now we've decided, I think, to release the clean one, but it's also doing the one that has the wobbly, the sort of irregular outlines.
Oh, it's going to be great for posters.
And then, of course, and these are the ones that Adobe give you for free over Typekit, but there's no reason why all the designers shouldn't take what they've started doing and turn them into proper families and release them as proper commercial fonts.
Yeah.
There certainly is the contract enables them to do so, because, you know, more often than not, it's a shame to have only, you know, one weight. This certainly the one that I'm not even sure what it's called now. I was going to call it Carl. Condenser. I don't know what the official name is now. The Carl Rounded was our first.
Carl Rounded.
But
nice.
Again, I don't want to have a legal precedent here. I don't think the trademarks are quite done. Hidetaka obviously is an experienced type designer. You know, he was designing type before he joined the course at Reading, and you can tell that he went right into it.
Yeah, very quickly.
But you have to decide, you know, some of those naive shapes. You look at the lowercase s, for example, it has that sort of weird short head, as it were, whereas the lowercase e has the large head. It's not very consistent, but that's the question you ask yourself as a designer. You know, am I going to make this into a perfectly consistent but boring typeface?
Right.
Or am I going to leave some of the inconsistencies, not knowing whether the designer intended them or whether he just couldn't draw any better? We don't know. We have to we can't double guess them. And I think Hidetaka managed to keep that naive shape. Look at that lowercase v.
And you can see
that has the little thing that goes, which is totally out of. See the 12 boxes over there?
Ah, yes.
Yeah. Why does that V have this shape? I know why, because there was an old German way of writing a V that had that weird shape. That obviously where that comes from. On the X, that is not an X, because they don't actually cross over. But, you know, leave them in there. I know he went for a lot of lowercase r's because they can have a narrow or a wider curve. So all these characters have lots of different alternatives, and the issue is, and that's where sometimes the deadline helps. Where do you stop?
Yeah.
Do you make 1,000 versions of every one, or do you say, oh, whatever, you know, I'm done because it's 8 o'clock at night, or the deadline looms, and sometimes it's useful. And I know he could have probably gone on for another few months designing alternate shapes.
Totally.
But we had to call it quits, and this is the typeface that you could set, again, not War and Peace, but you could certainly set complete pages. It's actually legible
it's
for
very
a condensed
legible.
face. And it's sort of...
I like the playfulness of it. It's so
yeah,
strict,
it has
but
a little
it's
naive, playful quality, just because it breaks some of the rules. It's a little irregular. It has some idiosyncratic shapes, like the A and the A and the E. Look at the chases.
Yeah, with chases,
the
it's
A has the weird
He's
stomach
so
and sort of the chin on the chest. The S has the sort of, you know, sort of like it's got a big tummy. And the E, however, sort of, has got a very big head. But altogether, it makes it work again.
It's playful and it completes each other.
All the inconsistencies come out into one big consistency.
They do marry each other quite well.
Do you have the bold weight here? I'm not sure whether that's
not sure. Let's take a look.
Even out yet.
Oh,
yes. Oh yeah, there we are. Yeah.
Wow, seeing it all together, it is intense.
It's already a family.
Yeah.
And just look at the range of characters we have there. It's a complete Adobe set. And look at those numbers. I mean, they're actually legible.
Yeah, it's really nice. I like how sharp the one is. Comes down.
Yeah, that's a very Germanic one. You know, we do our ones with an upstroke, and we do our sevens with a cross-stroke.
Right, with the Zs too, with the cross-stroke.
Yeah, the Zs also. Oh, you call them Z, not Z?
Well, I think you call them Z, right?
Well, we call them Z in German, but the English call them Z.
Z.
You call them Zs.
Zs, yes. Zs, sneeze.
Well, we know that. We know the zigzag, right? That's what we mean, yeah.
Zigzag. Yeah, it's really lovely. Even in bold, it's still very legible and
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's just the right amount of leaving it alone and moving it into being professional. I'm sure old Marx, you know, who's got a great name, I think he changed his spelling to Karl with a C at some point in his life.
Yeah.
Because the Karl Marx with the K was kind of
Right.
like not flavor of the year.
No,
in the 20s.
isn't that so?
Not everywhere. at
Not
least.
everyone's favorite.
So it's, you know, I'm sure he would have done the same. He would have cleaned up his sketches. He obviously had talent for them. And I hope he would have stopped before making it too perfect. And that's what he did. He just stopped before it became perfect and boring.
Even the uppercase S is really fun when you look at this one.
And if you look at the original sketches which we had, luckily, there was one in the movie, you can see there's one complete poem that was drawn at full size. I was really that size. The characters were like 10 centimeters tall.
Yeah, seeing the difference.
See, they're all there because they're hand-drawn.
Do you find that this to be the more bold version of what he was doing?
Yeah, he just changed the tool. And he obviously didn't have a grid. He just practiced and wrote and wrote and wrote. And he kept that liveliness, and that's really, really difficult.
Hey, you can see some evidence of the K right here.
Yeah. No, I love it.
That's great.
See there, can you see the bottom, Karl Marx? He still spells himself with a K there.
Yeah.
And then he changes later. I'm in front of him. Oh,
oh right, here we go.
Karl, I'm in front of you.
We've got this. And maybe we can hop over.
And it's in the first semester there, so he was.
Oh, I love that.
I don't know, these guys, Bauhaus, they're often joined as mature students that had a job before, so he's probably in his mid-20s.
Yeah, for those of you looking on the screen now, you have Karl Marx with the K before he had changed his name to a C, and then also noting first semester, so when he was just a student. This is pretty cool to see some of this original work.
Isn't it?
I mean, yeah.
You want to go into the actual building and see.
Oh, I'm sure. Everybody does. Are you inviting us, Erik? This is so exciting.
It's not for me, darling. Dessau is in the middle of Germany. It's actually in the middle of nowhere, but it's an hour away from Berlin. So hop on a train and you're there in no time whatsoever.
Wunderbar.
Wunderbar.
So maybe we hop over on Caterina's screen and see what she's up to.
Oh, God. So black right now.
You're like, oh, yeah. Move this out of the way.
Look at that.
Oh. Very quick.
Done, you can go home.
Yeah, right?
You're done.
Listen, this was
He's
really
like, I like it the way that it is.
I'll see you guys later.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're like, this has been good.
To be honest, there's so much for me to explore here, so it's super exciting just playing with it.
Yeah, the fonts are beautiful.
I hope Flavia is watching us. I mean, she must be so happy. Look at how
I
cool
hope so
this
too.
Look how great this is.
So basically, I've just started by exploring a wee bit of colour and then pulling colour on colour. And you know, how far can we push this? And as I go and as I develop, I'm sure that maybe these shapes, instead of them being so perfect, we start to get a wee bit of hand-drawn elementation into it. Like we can cut off some of the corners, maybe there's more of a textural feel. And then on the second poster, where I've just started to kind of work into it, nowhere near finished, just started. But as I pulled this font up, I started to realize that there's this lovely sort of flat edge to things like the F and these lovely little ornamentations. And I wonder if we just explore that a little bit and we do push it right up to the corners and just see, is it still legible? And this, to me, is what typography, expressive typography, is about, you know? How far can we push it? How much can we kind of take things apart? And I suppose push them to their element. And I think what would be interesting with this is to see if we use repetition, is it still legible? Does it become more like a pattern? Does it become more illustrative?
Can I ask you something, Caterina? You've already made outlines there, right?
Yeah.
Because when Flavia was working on this, as you can see that at the moment the space between the characters is larger than the space inside the character. Look at the J-O.
Yes.
Originally, you could, and if you do this in InDesign or in Illustrator before you make outlines, if you make them the same, the distance between characters as the one inside, then they become like this sort of, you can look at them and you can read them and you can make your eyes go back and forth. It becomes a bit of a puzzle. It's actually interesting, but that in the end, she decided to track it a little bit. But the original ones were the same, there was only one vertical space all through the alphabet. Which makes it arbitrary at times, but also interesting, because then the left part of the J could suddenly become part of the O. The O and the S won't be confusing, but the bits, the three little bits on the right of the E there, then would suddenly could be parts of the, like a Christmas tree of the F over there.
Yeah. Right.
So there's so much in there just by tracking it or not tracking it and moving stuff around that you can create arbitrary images, which is good and bad. It means you have to look twice, which can be much more about communication than just making it obvious.
Which I think is super interesting about this one especially, is you've got these really rigid, almost quite, I don't know, modernist, like heavy rectangular shapes, but then they come to, you know, or they're right next to, for instance, look at the E and the F, they're right next to these almost quite decorative, circular, obscure in relation shapes, and I think that's a really interesting contrast, and it creates quite an interesting juxtaposition.
So what happens now if you move that F over to the left a little bit, just for now? I'm always interfering, I know that. So when does the, see now what happens to the shapes there? Suddenly the F is not F anymore. It looks like almost like a Japanese character with the sort of brushes in there, right?
It does.
Like very
so
large. It's beautiful.
And even this almost feels like a pattern.
That's what I'm saying. There you are. You know, it's not an EF anymore. It becomes something else. So that is both good and bad.
Yeah.
And in the end, she decided to go the safe way and open the tracking. But tracking is something, as you know, just a number. You can minus track. You can open track in any Adobe. I tend to do this in InDesign, and it's easy to change the track and find out what happens.
Yeah, so you like in actual when you're kind of using the presets and you just squish it all the way up. And
well, her preset is zero, whatever that means, but you, of course, doing outlines, immediately they become objects.
See, it's quite interesting actually that you've said that, because I've never thought about this, but whenever I do design, I immediately turn my type into outlines.
Oh,
so that's quite unusual, because I wonder what that says.
Well, it's safe, you have to anyway if you send it off somewhere to be. If you put it into a PDF, it's always wise to do outlines, obviously, for various reasons. But it also means that the characters are not characters anymore, they become objects.
Exactly.
Which is, in my case, would be dangerous because I don't want to fiddle with them. Not because I'm in awe of the type designer, but then, you know, if the type designer has wanted a certain spacing, I tend to stick with it. But over time you find that certain faces look better tracked a little bit in small sizes or not. But here, because they're objects already, this actually offers another choice.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, also dangerous. Not in your hands, but in my hands they might, because, you know, I'm not an illustrator. Yeah.
See, I think it would be interesting to, like, maybe I was going to do it on maybe like the third session or something, really focus on the typography and go in and actually draw shapes within the shapes and see what happens. If we duplicate, if we turn it into an outline, what does it become? And explore these sort of things a lot more. But I think even now there's an element of, you know, turning the text around and repetition, and I think with colour, seeing how that exposes the typography and seeing how the type actually copes with it as well, I think will be quite interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see it on the vertical.
It's already done. I think this is a great poster.
It's beautiful.
Well, we've got more to come.
The colors are great.
I work in a way in which I usually do a lot of posters. So, but it's because I'm really interested in seeing what I can do with things and how to explore things and how far I can push stuff.
Yeah.
So it's almost for my own brain. I need to do.
You need to get it out of your system. You're like, I did this, now I got to try that.
And then I go in and finesse. But at the beginning, I just like to go crazy and explore.
Amazing.
Do you then always go back to the first idea, like I do?
That often happens.
Do you do that?
Yeah, it always happens because I think it's like a designer. You know when you've done it. So sometimes I'll make a poster and I know that the client will choose that poster. But for my piece of diligence, I'll explore and see. And then as well, it's good because sometimes things happen by mistake, and you're like, oh, that looks really good, and I didn't even mean to do it. You know, even by something pasting in the wrong spot, say, or whatever. But yeah,
it's very true.
I think we all do that. I mean, you come back to, you do a few choices because you think this can't be. I mean, if I've done something after an hour, I think, wait a minute, that was too quick. There's no way that can be ready.
No.
And then you do more stuff, and then if you have a chance at all to sleep on it, which we hardly ever do, you come back in the morning and think, you know, that wasn't all bad. Maybe I will go back to the first one. Some clients you have to give 3 of them, and you know that
it's helpful.
They can throw one away, and the other one they can sort of like doubt a little bit, and then
like,
they always.
That is the right one.
Yeah, they always get
true.
the one.
So speaking of posters, for those of you who are joining us, you have 30 minutes for the challenge, and the challenge is to design a logo using the typefaces that you can download on the challenge tab. And the winner will get some posters designed by some of the past artists and designers from Adobe. Pretty good challenge. Maybe even they'll get some of yours someday. we'll have to make those part of the rotation.
Look what happens there when that word albus there is half out and half inside that,
that
blue
purple
box there, the purple box. How those shapes again start having their
and they
own
vibrate
life.
a little. Yeah.
Wow.
That's very cool.
I mean, with those shapes, you can't do anything but make good posters. Almost anybody can. Not belittling.
She's like, come on, I'm right here.
No, I mean, you haven't done it. You put the word Joseph in full size, in colors. I mean, if that isn't already, because the stuff is so...
It's just so well designed.
It's ornamental. It tells a story. I mean, you know, you wouldn't use it for a Baroque concert probably.
Yeah.
But then again, you might. You know, I don't know. You might do the opposite. But just the shapes themselves. That's what I've been saying. Those fonts are so great, and that they suggest so many possibilities already. And obviously, they suggest playing with color. Even I might do that.
Oh, I think
actually,
you should.
I get my wife's the color person. She's a color. Yeah. She's a better designer when it comes to color. I can like.
You guys make a good pair then.
Yeah, I set up the grid and then she makes it look really good.
Oh, I like that.
I tend not to be so interesting.
That's a good marriage.
Yeah. I just I buy my own socks though.
Yeah, those are good.
That's the one thing.
We've heard it here. No, I think that's great, and it's
Look
also.
at that. I mean, come on, that type designs itself.
It's beautiful. This is exciting to watch you work, and especially with this type. Wow. I mean, half of design is type, but the other half is having really good aesthetic. So.
See, I mean, the good thing, you can see the O upside down, the S upside down, they already work.
Super fun.
Oh, God. That's so cool. And look at the bottom left there, that E is upside down, but, you know, it looks like an E again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just upside down. The part of the F becomes the E.
And the S too.
It's so arbitrary, but it's great. Come on, this is fantastic.
So good.
Flavia, I hope you're watching in New
York. Yeah, I know. Everyone's drooling. The chat's going wild. They're loving everything. The colors that you're designing with, the typography, everything is just...
And aren't we lucky that we just asked the schools and within 2 days everybody sent us back those names, and we were lucky that we had people from different languages, different cultures. We had 2 women out of 5 without asking for it.
That's great.
We are so very lucky that we have, you know, bring it all together. Because obviously somebody from Brazil brings a different sensibility than somebody from Japan does.
Completely,
and to have that,
using German type, it's nice to have that cultural
totally
melting pot within the typeface.
But we were lucky. Cool. That wasn't. We just asked the teachers, "Can you name some of your students who have the time and the energy and the audacity to do this within the time frame?" And they came back immediately. And
are you kidding?
My God,
any student would be like, ah.
Yeah, but don't forget, this is May, June when they are finishing their semester and they have a lot of work to do. So these are people who, they weren't total beginners, they'd all done type before, either in their course or separately, and that's why they weren't afraid. They knew they could do it in the time frame.
Yeah.
They had the confidence and the tools. I don't know how much the schools got involved, but certainly everything we got was technically 120%. You didn't have to tell anybody how to use the program or what a letter shape was. That was a given.
They knew everything.
The conversations were always
completely
really professional and above board.
Which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it made me probably feel pretty good that you were putting it in their hands.
Oh yeah, I know this.
So we have another typeface in your deck that let's take a look at. So this is one of the ones that's going to be coming out in the future.
Yeah.
And what is this one called?
Well, we call it, is it called Reinhold Rossig was the original designer. I'm not sure what the naming is now. Reinhold is a bit of a mouthful for, we call it Reinhold Geometric or Reini Geometric, whatever.
Reini?
I don't know yet. That's again
again, TBD on the
attorneys. The attorneys will probably spend another 2 years in. They'll probably find somebody who makes gherkins called Reinhold or something, or vinegar or whatever.
Michael Shays is laughing off on the side.
No, but look at that. I mean, this is what we think of, most of us, when we think of Bauhaus type. Because some of those, Herbert Bayer did one, there's an ITC Bauhaus, they all have that round A and those sort of geometric shapes, which are a little, you know, let's face it, clunky.
Very square.
You know, that K is kind of like a little sick. It's way too, you know, it needs to lose some weight.
Yeah, I like it.
No, I'm not saying it. It's just they're all kind of together. They're all weird.
Yeah.
They don't belong.
They have their own character.
Yeah, they don't belong into an alphabet yet. But that's what Elia did. Elia from the German school in Leipzig. He was he had a hard time pushing that a little bit because he said, "Oh my God, you know, this is so cool. This is so, how could I possibly?" But if you look at that lowercase a, for example, where the circle goes into the straight, it's a little blotchy. So we need to cut in there and open it up a little bit. You wouldn't even know unless you knew. And also the same on the bottom left of the B, where the circle goes into the straight. There's always a little edge there.
Right
so
in here.
that had to be eliminated. If you move over to the lowercase e, it's the counter's way, the cross stroke is way too fat. The counter, the head needs to be opened. Also the manipulations, so he did that, sort of manipulated so that it basically kept the essence, but like the diagonal stroke on the K is way too heavy.
Yeah.
Everybody sees that. It's probably the same weight as the others, but we know after a while that a diagonal stroke has to be a little lighter because it appears thicker. So, you know, what you see is what you get, not what you measure. And that T has that sort of big head, I don't know. It's a little weird.
crossbar.
The S is weird, but you keep the weirdness in, so the S is stayed in. But maybe the middle stroke needs to be a little thinner there because it looks heavier than the top and the bottom one. So all this manipulation is what you learn as a type designer. That you manipulate it so it looks okay, but not different. It just feels right. It's almost like spices. You know, you can cook without spices, but it's bland. So Elia went down and added spice to this stuff. He kept the essence, the food is there, the ingredients are there, but he made it spicy. And we changed the relationship between the lowercase, the X height, and the caps. And some characters were a little outrageous. So he very, very subtly manipulated them and went through a few iterations. And it's come out, I don't know if we can show the after already. It would be a shame if we couldn't. There's his screen.
Beautiful.
With the first ones that he
Hamburger, I like that.
Yeah, well, you know, it's our test word.
Test word?
Nice.
Nice.
That was based, he did two. That was one, there's another one there. He did two of them. I don't know where the other one is. Yeah, that's the one we just looked at, the original.
See the variants.
Can you zoom in on that one a little bit?
Yeah.
So you see that lowercase e, for example, that looked earlier. Go to See, he's opened up the middle. It still has that sort of, the T is even kept its tall head. It's still that little sort of crudeness because it's geometric, but it has a proper rhythm to it. The weight's probably distributed. So again, you know, not for War and Peace, but it immediately brings in the 1920s. Anything you set in this has this sort of handcrafted, engineered quality to it.
It does.
So you probably wouldn't use it for a children's book.
No.
I don't know, but then again, you know, it's a kind of Lego thing, you know.
Depends on the children's book.
Depends on the parents, yeah.
Exactly.
So he's kept that flat S in there and the weird W, so he's kept the weirdness. He just basically cleaned it up.
I like the technical term of weirdness. You're like, the weirdness is still there. It's
well, the weirdness is because some guy was trying to fit this all into a very primitive grid.
Yeah.
Which, as a type designer or as a graphic designer, you know, after years, letters don't come from a grid. They come from handwriting. You know, if the Romans had used the grid, we wouldn't have so much work today. But the Romans didn't. They just did it by hand, brushes or chisels or whatever, as did the Assyrians before them. So the inconsistencies that come from an overdone grid, that the cap E is way too wide. Yeah. But you know what? Why the hell not?
The N is interesting too.
They're all interesting.
Yeah.
But Elias has, I think he had the most difficult job because in a way it was a typeface that was ready. He designed all the characters, Wozniak did, but they were crude, mechanically crude. So for Elia to keep his own personality behind the original, not say, look here, I'm a great type designer, but say, look, this was a great guy, I just helped him publish his font. And that's the modesty you have to have as a type designer.
Yeah.
Not put yourself in front of it. And Elia had it in great measure, and technically now it's flawless, and it's, like I said, it still has that little naive, crude feel about it. He knew when to finish.
Yeah, I love the umlaut over the O. It definitely looks
Isn't
like
it great,
someone's going,
little thingy up there? Brilliant.
Yeah,
it's just,
it's very cute.
It is cute in a way, in a sort of naive little way.
Completely.
Very true.
So can you talk a little bit about the difference between these two?
Well, there were two sketches, obviously by the same guy. So he took a different grid, which is obviously was probably 5 by 7, tall and not so wide. He's kept, the capitals are pretty much the same as before.
Right.
But these were from a different sketch, actually from somebody else.
In the A too.
And they're a little bit more like the previous one we saw from Hidetaka.
Right.
The Karl Marx one. You know, that funny A, see that A that has that sort of sticking out stomach kind of thing and the little crooked neck.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I keep going back to
I like this.
anthropomorphic.
I like this, yeah. No,
well,
it's just a good way. I think it's helpful for people to understand. The A with the big belly.
I could look like an A if I ate a bit more and kept my head down.
Yeah, exactly. And I could look like an E.
Yeah, walk like an Egyptian.
Yeah, I know, right?
I guess, yeah.
Between the two of us, people are like, what are they saying?
So if you wait, so the caps I think are pretty much the same. The lower case has a much larger X height. So this is actually a little further towards what we today would call a proper typeface. It has a relationship of width to height that isn't. The other ones are pretty much a square.
Yeah.
This is probably 5 to 7 or 5 to 8 or something even.
Yeah, between the two.
It's a little more. Yeah, it's a little more normal in a sense and useful because it isn't so very geometric. But it
still feels quirky.
It still has the little S's
quirky.
in there. The weird S's in there, but it's got the larger X head, so the T's head doesn't stick out so much anymore.
Yeah.
It's more useful, but again, it has that little simplicity that is very, very difficult to maintain. I think Elia did really well in keeping himself in the background, which is difficult, because he could have made it into a totally new modern typeface, but that was not the aim. The aim was to see what would Rossig have done if he'd lived today.
Well, it seems like it's come quite a bit of a distance from where it was in a good way. Because if you look at the beginning of it.
If our present designer here will use this one the next few days.
Oh, yeah.
This is asking to be used for some sort of punkish music or whatever. It has that handmade quality already, right?
Yeah.
It's noisy.
Has this one been released?
Not yet.
No, so when's this being released?
Not for a little while. I think it's still TBD, but it will be released pretty soon, I think.
I know nothing about it.
I'm like, I know nothing too.
No. But it will be, don't worry.
It will be released.
You know,
Stay tuned.
I think the idea was if they released all 5, it'd be almost wasted, because you can't take that much.
Yeah, it's too much.
It'll be a waste.
Well, you'd want to use them all immediately, and what would you do?
But don't you agree, if you have something that is a little cooler like this, if you make a music poster, it sort of has a certain, you can hear the sound of it already, right?
Yeah, I think the thing with working with something so like ornamented like this is it almost feels like it needs to sit in a certain way, and I don't want to interrupt the typeface too much because I think that will come with a bit of experimentation, but as well so much craft has gone into what we're creating that I think to completely take it apart ruins it. But I've started to explore a little bit if we enlarge some of them on things like this.
Beautiful, yeah.
Oh my God, look at that one on the left, wow.
So cool.
You know, if we keep these all one size and then we enlarge these two, does this start to begin to look like a platform or a pattern in which this typography then sits? And then it's kind of like this subliminal sort of idea of it reads Joseph. But it's this idea of instead of just looking at something and getting it immediately, we're intriguing people, we're asking them to look a little bit deeper. And that's the same with what's happening over here.
Wow.
I tend to quite like to try and make things look very...
Yeah, we're like, oh.
But you know, it's so interesting because...
Anything that makes you move your head can't be bad,
yeah,
right?
I know, right? We're interested.
Good for your neck muscles.
I think what's happening here that's really interesting is these interesting little shapes here. You know, from something that's quite heavy and quite blocky, these little intricacies are starting to come through just by joining and turning things upside down and playing with
another
colour.
font.
Yeah.
Like almost a Roman font in there.
Yeah, but it's quite unusual. It's almost got a serif.
It's a
serif,
if this is your first term designer, figure ground contrast, one of the first things you learn. You know, you're looking at the figure at the ground. What's foreground, what's background?
Right.
And you get confused here, which is great, the arbitrariness. It's not a map.
Yeah.
You know, on a map, you want to know what's the street and what's the building. And here, you can either read it, the background, or you can read the foreground.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it makes it, you want to spend time looking at it.
Exactly.
Which for a poster is a great achievement.
It draws you in.
Yeah. You know? And then what I always like to sort of play with is these scan-in textures. So if you like zoom in on here, we get these lovely little grains. And it almost, because sometimes,
Some unevenness.
Yeah.
It's nice.
And this, I just think is lovely.
Yeah.
This to me is something that creates, I know it's so small to most people, but just even this, the detail here of how this overlays and creates this thin white line, it just, that to me really adds a level to posters that make them feel a lot more real. And like usually I try and print things out, I'd scan them in, I'd do this more manually, but I've also got a set of scan-in sort of textures which I sometimes overlay, and it's just to give it this sort of feeling that sometimes it's quite hard to get unless you do scan in multiple times.
It's a lovely technique.
And reprint and whatever.
Yeah.
And then adding these sort of little ink dots on top as well. But me and Erik were talking earlier and he said that when he was studying, which I thought was amazing, they used to get this sort of feeling on the posters and through the typography, you know, squishing and pulling out typography, because they'd actually cut the type out and then they'd place it, you know, and then they'd take a photo of it and then they'd scan that in. And so these layers were actually added through the craft, which I think is something that is just really nice.
Well, mind you, we spend half of our time getting the dirt out of the reproductions, and you spending the rest of the time getting dirt back in there because digital is so clean.
Analog to digital.
We were spotting negatives forever and white out all over the place because we didn't want that dirt. If we wanted dirt, like I said, we put a shovel of sand in the stat camera to make it look dirty to get that wood type effect.
Amazing.
But it's amazing, right? It's like I'm gonna try this. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about the dirt in the camera thing.
You don't have a stat camera, do you?
No.
You don't even know what they are.
No, probably not.
No.
I did.
You don't need to know.
We're like, tell us more, Uncle Erik.
Oh, when I were young.
When I was your age.
No, I don't miss them. They were big and
So
the
fun.
dirty chemicals and crap. You spent your day in the dark room and it was always dark when you came out. Not fun. I don't miss dark rooms.
Well, I studied
A little bit.
A little bit.
Maybe
okay,
a little bit. Yeah, there's kind of
Well,
fun,
we are
right?
going
There's
full-
something
we're going-
romantic about the dark room.
We are going full analog. I mean, like I said, I have a letterpress shop, so that's about as analog as it comes. But
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's
we
pretty
still want
great.
to have to print crisp and clear. We don't want to produce dirt. It's inevitable, but we don't make for it.
No, it's a happy accident after the fact over wear and time. So we have some posters in here that were also designed in your presentation
Oh yeah, that was that's a great one.
from the archive.
Yeah. Now that was another one. See, I mean, lots of people have seen this in the Bauhaus books. This is the famous poster by Alfred Arndt. But when we saw it, actually, they pull it out of the drawer, we were not. The colors were so much brighter than you imagine. This is
Doesn't give it justice, does it?
it was printed lithograph, but really, I mean, obviously, they're all just plain full colors. There was the red was one color, the yellow was one color. There was also a blue version of it, which never seen before. So this is not, unlike all the others, this is not a sketch of alphabets. This is actually an applied poster. So the guy had. Maybe he'd done his sketches before, we don't know. And you can see the sort of typical S's in there again. You know, that the S's never bent back. They are just sort of these two little horseshoe shapes. And that lovely umlaut, the Bäckerei, which is bakery in German, of course. He just squeezed them in there. And the K's, all the letters are different from in each application. Like the E's and the Genossenschaft, which means association or whatever in Germany, they are very wide. The O is actually too small in there. You know, it looks a little weird. So it's all very mannered. The E's below are much narrower. The counter space is wider. So there's about 5 different alphabets in there. And what Celine from The Hague who did this, the first thing she did, she took that word in the middle, the Genossenschaft, and scanned it out, and put it on her screen and measured it up. Said, okay, what's regular in here? What did he mean to do? What's the counter space to the thickness? Obviously the counter space, I mean the white in the letters is thinner than the black, and the E at least. The G has the weird little thin stripe down the middle. So it's inconsistent, but she cleaned it up and she said, okay, this is what he intended to do. He intended the F to have the same counter space as the E, even though a normal type designers would drop the middle stroke on the F a little bit. It wouldn't be just a cut off E, but okay, let's work with this. And then she came up and did this, but then she also looked through all the alternatives. So she did 3 different Ks, different O's, different N's, because all the characters, they are hand-drawn. The N on the top left is different from the N on the top right. All the E's or the A's are different. Celine did all the variations. She did small caps.
What a feat.
She did a narrow and a wide and a regular. And we just had to say, hey, wait a minute. We can't publish all those for now. I think for now you're getting the regular weight, which actually is a black, and you get in small caps.
So there's more to come then, is what you're saying.
There's alternates in there. If anybody wants to use open type features, which unfortunately not many people do, there'll be plenty in there.
Oh, that's
She
wonderful.
did alternatives for the little umlauts there. And
I've never seen an umlaut like that before.
I have, because that's what wood type does, because wood type doesn't have any overhangs normally. But because you don't want to be in the way, this is enough for a German to know, you don't need to overdo them. And if you had, you want to set type really tightly, then the dots over the top of a capital letter would be in the way.
Yeah.
So
make it shrink down.
And she did the same for the O and the U umlauts. And now you have this typeface, which is kind of noisy and chunky and industrial, but also because it is so naive in a way, it's still joyful.
Yeah.
Sometimes, big, heavy is kind of like,
it feels fun.
Sort of male, but this is not made in a sort of bragging way. It's strong, it's got broad shoulders, but it also bounces about a little.
I think it's the skinny B and the skinny C. They're kind of like, ooh.
Yeah.
They're very cute.
And you can
tucked
also,
in there,
I have not met Celine. She's German. She studied at The Hague, and she's obviously accomplished, and she obviously has a sense of humor. While she did this and she measured it up and they put a grid over it, and the work is impeccable from a technical point of view, she must have had a lot of fun doing that. So those letters became her friends.
Totally.
And they all look, that's what we call them character icons. They are little people that walk around the page. Exactly. And while they're heavy, they're still mobile. Like some sort of short and heavier people still bounce around. And these do. And it's just another joy. I keep doing this superlatives, which is not my normal scene. But I fell in love with all these characters so much from just one poster.
Erik
this
and
is
friends.
difficult.
You're like, these are my friends.
They totally are, yeah.
I love it.
And again, I can't say often enough how good these students were, that they just pulled this stuff out of their head in the space of a couple of weeks.
So clever.
I was scared shitless, quite frankly. I thought, my God, where do you even start with this here? I mean, there's no consistency. Every letter's different. Now they found the consistencies and they added their own little touch to it. You wait for this one whenever it comes out. It's going to be great.
It's beautiful. I also like the squaring up factor, which is something that you mentioned earlier. Trying to square that up and having it be justified to the page, and it seems like this is what they've done.
By the way, what she's also, I'm not sure whether she's done it for this release. We said, Celine, why don't you do every character with an understroke? Because that's the typical Bauhaus thing, the bold lines.
Oh, yeah.
So you can get the G with the understroke already in place.
Really?
So you can make the you have immediate Bauhaus. And then as we heard earlier from our Dutch friend here, you turn it at 30 degrees, it already says Bauhaus in a way. Because they did a lot of that stuff, get away from the boring bourgeois right angles. So, heavy underscores, turn it at an angle, use black and red, bingo.
Everyone's like, ooh, we can't wait.
I should hope so, guys. You're getting this for nothing.
Exactly. This is brilliant.
Oh, there we have it. There's her stuff, yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
I love this one.
Isn't that brilliant?
Yeah, it's so cool.
And the little inconsistencies, there's the...
I really love this one.
I love that umlaut.
And we have two different, see the Bäckerei, but it's another umlaut. The CK in German is often a ligature because it's a frequent combination. In fact, we don't have C's on their own in German, only with CK or CH. And then at the bottom there, the Kunstschule, she has another C in there, which is more like a normal C that you would expect. So most characters have two versions. And in what people maybe don't remember, because nobody was around 100 years ago, in metal type for headline fonts, you often had two widths for every character, because people wanted to justify a line.
Right.
And these days you can pull stuff or you can add tracking. In those days, you would have one word was maybe two characters shorter than the other, so they would put wider characters in there to space them out to the same width. That's why she has a narrow one and a wide one for most characters in there. So you can, without tracking, you can come to a justified setting.
Very cool.
Look at that. I mean, that is
beautiful.
They are static letters, but they make a dynamic word. I have no idea why that happens, but it happens.
Yeah, it's so great. She did a lovely job. I mean,
look at that.
Really intense.
Yeah, intense is a good word.
Yes. Oh, great, and we can see it all here. Oh, if we get a little bit tighter in.
And those little accents. How cute they are. And then she didn't want to go full weight with the brackets and stuff. Who says brackets have to have full weight?
True.
thin brackets works.
It's kind of nice in here to see these tiny little apostrophes.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
You know.
It keeps the font in the focus. Wow.
Well, this is obviously the small caps because suddenly you get those big numbers in there. Oh, that's mine.
Oh.
Is this? Oh, this is my end slide normally.
Oh, really? Well,
yeah,
we're not there yet.
One. Oh, okay.
Interesting. Yeah, all of our characters. But she did do an @sign.
Oh, yeah.
It's cute how it's so thin around there.
Well, otherwise you couldn't do it. I mean,
right?
It's way too fat for its own good.
Exactly.
You know, we have, like I said, we have euros, we have pounds, we have yen, we have dollars. This is a totally modern character set.
Totally.
You can set anything in the Latin alphabet, and again, you know, I wouldn't use this on War and Peace, but it's playful. If you look at some of the alternates, I'm not sure how many we have now. I haven't looked at the latest ones. But you can see there's normally a narrow and a wide version of every character. And there's the small caps, so there's mix and play. I'm not sure whether the underscores are on this alpha release or whether she's going to do them later. But that's certainly something that you can do in a font.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, let's check out what Caterina's doing.
Please.
So
I've started colors.
to think a little bit more about adding some more sort of illustrative elements in, so these sort of hand-drawn, as if it was an original sort of stencil font that was being drawn in a sketchbook. Can we add these sort of elements that make this feel a little bit more real? And I kind of like these sort of things, these, you know, when it's hand-drawn, having these inconsistencies, not having everything absolutely rulered off. And then starting to pull that in to create these sort of interesting, this is almost like a double gridded sort of thing. I actually don't use grids at all on anything, which is pretty, I suppose, against the norm. But, you know, creating this border, and then within the border, can we create another sort of almost rhythmic sort of graphic set of assets? And how do they sit? Should it be pulled all the way out to the edge? Should it, you know, just sit in the middle? And then how does the typography start to interact with that? So I think moving on from here, what would be quite interesting is, after seeing some of the sort of other fonts that are being developed, that you were just showing some lovely stuff, maybe if we start to introduce, you know, a big block onto the back of the E, what happens to this character? So if it starts to be elongated, if we add like a big block on top of the J, what starts to happen to that? And I think that's where I'm going to start to go next.
And you also realize that there's alternates to some of those characters. Like there's another H that has the blob in the middle, the round one.
Oh, tomorrow's going to be fun.
So that's the option, click on the character, and then the alternates come up in open type fonts. Not once you've turned them outlines, of course.
No, but in
I'm sure people realize that, right? I don't know when that happened a few years ago, that release where you click on the character, and if there's open type alts, they come up.
Is it just on the H?
And some of them, there you are. See? Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't remember anymore, but there was a few of them. So before you turn them outlines, you just do the option. Is it option click?
Yeah, usually if it has.
Yeah, if it has an alternate, it'll come up.
It comes up. You see?
There you are. That's the one.
It literally just like hover over
it. It's such a great feature.
Isn't it a great feature?
Yeah,
otherwise, you have to look in the Glyphs palette.
Exactly.
Which unfortunately is not. Oh my God! Don't get to me between Illustrator and InDesign. Why they are not the same? Drives me crazy. Huh?
Text menu.
I know. It is on both, but they're still different. We've been waiting for this for years, for Adobe to make at least the type menus the same between those characters,
Maybe
those programs.
For you.
I've asked. I've been working with Adobe since 1987, and
look, they need
things
to have
take
you
a little
complain
longer
about
at times.
something. I mean,
no,
you know,
I'm not complaining.
I'm
always asking. I'm always asking for a friend. You know, it's never for me.
Oh, sure. Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm with you. So we have just about a minute left for the competition.
Isn't that nice?
So if you guys haven't submitted, please submit now.
Was it my stuff?
Yeah, that was it. We're like,
that little O just jumps up there. Isn't it funny?
No.
I mean,
I really love this though, the inconsistency between the small and the large.
Oh, it's so cute.
That's what I'm saying. You can move around forever.
Oh, I love it.
Well, the O and
like
the A are there
head,
for the secundo and prima stuff, right? They're there. For your languages.
Yeah, I love it. I'm going to try and explore this then.
That E is so great.
I love, you know, the thing with this is it feels almost like it's embossed.
Yeah,
That
it does.
it already feels like it's got a lot of like texture. And
So now you've done the E's with the round dot in the middle, right? Rather than,
That's
this
nice.
is lovely. I actually really like this with the circular.
Well, that was Flavia's introduction. That wasn't in the original sketch. She introduced those because some of them just weren't working at all with the arbitrary elements. So she introduced the circle in there, which is perfectly consistent, even though Jo Schmidt hadn't got it in there. But it just opens up a whole new world of opportunities.
Yeah, it really does. And I think that in either tomorrow or on Thursday, I'm going to explore form. And I think what would be really interesting is, especially with this typeface, is to blow this up and remove some of these forms.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, the circle, and then do these all kind of sit on top of each other and create a new form? How can we explore it? So that will be maybe tomorrow's.
Oh, I love this.
Can you believe we're getting paid for this? I mean, as designers, we get paid for playing around with form.
It's amazing.
How cool is that?
I know.
Pretty cool.
It's amazing. I always say that design is the best thing for like someone's brain. Art, design, it does. It makes you, I think, a happier person.
And it's so great when you discover something like
No,
this.
it's perfect. I love it.
Well, the best thing is you're using somebody else's typeface, and you just suddenly discover things in there that are just such a joy to use, and there's
So
always a sense of humor in there.
Yeah.
You know.
And when they see it, they get to experience it in another way.
And one of the best things about being a type designer is when I see other people use my typefaces. Because I always intend them for a specific purpose.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Meta was made for small sizes and bad paper and stuff. And then people use them on the side of a building.
Exactly.
And I think, oh my God, I wouldn't dare do this. It's verboten. But people do it, and more often than not, it's great. And that's the biggest joy. I mean, it can, of course, be disastrous. I've seen stuff used badly. But you publish it, it's out there.
Yeah, it's
but
in the
more often
world.
than not, I find that people will think of uses that I would never think of. And it's always great when people use your own typefaces.
Completely.
Look at some of the stuff
Speaking
you're
of
looking at.
using typefaces.
Oh, brilliant, guys.
We have a bunch of logo submissions, so
Oh my God,
I
that
think
was
we'll... I know, let's take a look,
Wow.
and we are going to pick one, just one, out of all of these while we look through them. Let's
Oh
get
God,
in
you guys
here.
were quick.
Wow, this is so
Alright.
Oh,
interesting.
brilliant. My
Space.
goodness.
Mirta Ebel. Beautiful.
Love it already.
It's so simple.
Wow.
So
I love
nicely
the
done.
layering. I think it's super interesting.
How would you get those patterns in there?
Or
Would you bring
refresh
them in
that
from
page.
somewhere or redraw
Is there one more?
You draw them
yes,
in.
yes,
I
yes.
would draw them in
Just copy.
Illustrator. It looks like what she's done is outlined it and then used them. It's essentially what we're kind of talking about.
Yeah,
all
but the
these-
dots on the S there, I mean, that's a lot of drawing.
That is.
I think that will be a texture.
That'd be a texture,
wouldn't it?
pattern,
Yeah.
a pattern,
Yeah.
and then
Okay.
Masked
masked
in.
it. Yeah.
But that is brilliant. Look
That
at
was
that.
great.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I love
Well-
the dissection of the characters, and I also love the introduction of kind of adding form within form on the E. You see how it's got this sort of semicircle within the rectangle. That's super
great.
interesting.
Well, Mirta, who did this, obviously understood that typeface straight away. She's got the essence of it, that you can take the elements about, as you were saying, and move them around. You can still read it, but it also illustrates what it says. It's space. It's just absolutely brilliant.
Completely.
Wow. Makes me
So
very
let's
happy.
take a look. We had a couple just before that snuck in. Thank goodness.
Ooh, I love this. Yeah.
Again, I like the color too. It's kind of that burnt red.
What I like about this is it plays with the idea of the space in the middle, like you were saying, Erik. By introducing it in the white, you almost lose the space completely, and that's quite interesting. It actually almost creates a new character rather than. I like that. I like the grid that it's on.
Let's see.
Oh, this is
Oh,
interesting.
book.
Oh, so this is the other typeface. This is Zantz. How do we pronounce it? Zantz? Erik? Maybe.
Depends where you come from. Xanti, an X for in German is for a Spanish it would be a ch, or in Catalan a ch.
Okay.
So it depends what language you come from.
I like
Yeah.
this.
We would pronounce an X like the English do a Xanti.
Zantz.
Or Xantz.
Xanti.
All right. Let's see. We've got a couple more. We've got a lot of these, so we're gonna.
We'll have to run.
Oh
rush
yeah.
through.
Well, no, we won't rush, but maybe a little. Kaboko.
Look at that red comma and gold. I mean, it's amazing that we can actually identify gold on a RGB screen.
That's true.
Because this is gold, even though it's not. But
It's got
I
some
like
nice
the
texture.
nice.
Yeah.
But I also actually, what I really like about this one is the stacking. I think
Yeah,
that's
Lucian.
working really well.
Heavily. See, I sometimes
fun.
scan in the concrete floor at my house. It looks like old paper when you scan it in. Well, that's a little dirt, you know.
I would use that. Send me that.
All right. This one's using the other font.
Oh, this is
I love
interesting
it.
as well.
Very
Yeah,
Jan.
I like that the A and the I become one.
Use the same dot there.
Skybar.
Oh my goodness.
What
Great
I would
idea.
say with this would be interesting is to introduce a thick and a thinness to the steps to sort of
Also,
mimic.
to echo
Play
that,
with
you're
it.
right, yeah.
And then I think that would look
So what we do the verticals in thin, right?
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
mimic the,
Oh,
the
yeah,
type.
yeah, I guess.
You could play. You could see what looks better.
Oh.
See,
No, this is
great.
See, that stuff designs itself. Almost. You use that typeface, you use it
Beautiful.
well, do
This is
outlines,
really
put
cool.
colors
These
in
are
there.
some great submissions. It's going to be really hard
Oh,
for you
kids.
two to choose and then agree.
I think that this one's super Bauhaus, though.
Yeah.
The colors, the forms, the forms within the form. Yeah, it just feels very
Yeah.
within that world.
That designer, she's called Lisa Kern. What a great name.
What
for
a
a
great
designer.
name, yeah.
I hope that wasn't made up. If it was, it's funny.
Yeah, we
Call
liked
yourself
it.
Lisa Kern, you got my vote.
So this is interesting, putting it into a shape and how it then sits within a
Yeah,
shape.
that's the stencil, you know, the sort of wood barrel type of.
Yeah.
It works for that stuff.
Oh, I love that 3.
Well, what has he, she, or she done?
Whiteboard.
Colby. Is Colby a man's name?
Like Colby.
Probably.
Colby,
Could be
I'd say
both.
boy.
Thickened up the serifs on the bore and the BOR. See that? That's not the original weight.
Is it? No, no.
I wonder if that's intentional. Probably is, because otherwise it might have been too thin.
I'm just thinking, I've not even tried the numbers yet. And they're lovely.
They're
Yeah,
beautiful.
they are. Well, we got old style and regular.
It's
aligning
lovely,
figures.
yeah.
All right. Oh, this looks a little familiar.
This is cool, but
That's an E. I think it's an E gone wrong.
I was like, that's an E.
It's actually half of Stonehenge.
It's an E with 2 humps.
maybe it's for a theatre that is in an archway. Doesn't it?
I like it. It's
Well, you
choose
start
your
looking
own
at the black
logo.
shape, you suddenly get a T in there. You get serifs in there.
Yeah.
You look at the black rather than the red.
Oh, there is a bit on top. Maybe.
All right.
So this is
Bauhaus.
another sort of interesting interpretation of
Yeah,
the inside.
outside, yeah.
Yeah.
You can lose it all together, or you can work with the figure ground stuff.
It kind of looks like a razor.
Yeah, it does a bit.
New Bauhaus for men.
Oh, this is cool. So
Oh,
this is
take it out of type altogether. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bit of Unilever. Interesting.
I think that's a really interesting approach, especially the bottom.
It's like
The
tulips.
shapes. Yeah, it's
pretty.
really cool.
What's the top say? Rosa, rosa?
Rosa, rosa.
Maybe it's a flower shop. That's what I'm going to assume.
Tulips?
Tulips.
Can that would say that?
They should have said what they were made them for.
Plugged. Yeah.
Because it would have made the thing is, like, logos sometimes on their own don't look that amazing, but when you see it in context, it's like even the most simple of logos, if you see them on their own, they don't look that amazing, and then when you see it in context, it looks amazing.
Is it funny how we read
Both.
plugged when there's no U in there at all?
Yeah.
Only one G? Wow.
Interesting. So I was just informed that the chosen winner is going to receive a year of Creative Cloud. So that's
wow,
pretty, the
that's
stakes are high.
Do we get a chance to look at them all properly off screen here? Because I feel, I've only seen 4 or 5 and I already have 5 favorites, so.
Oh no, well there's not 5 subscriptions, Eric.
I
You're
know,
gonna
I'm
have
saying
to
that
choose.
I need to look at them to do them justice. I can't just do this sort of live on screen. I feel a little superficial there.
I don't know, we'll have to ask Michael. I think that we have no choice.
But we need to look at them all, don't we?
Yeah,
We will look at them all, of course.
That's what I'm saying.
Infinity, the logo. All right, we'll keep going because there's quite a few more.
These fonts are going to be so popular because they are so easy to
Let's
work
see,
with.
we've got
hold
a
on.
lot to go through, so
Jesus.
well, we'll be a little quicker.
It's okay, my flight's on in the morning.
Yeah,
Don't
exactly. We'll be here till tomorrow.
Oh, this
Adobe
is
Live.
interesting, Yeah.
Oh, the new Adobe Live logo.
It's cool how they interlock, I think. I would like to see this in loads of different colors.
I would like to see this aligned.
Oh, come on. We're talking about live here.
Next.
You sound like a German.
I am German by heritage.
Oh, dear. Oh, another one.
Oh, I like this.
Clever play with the inside-outside.
Yeah,
that stuff,
modernism.
see, it just brings so much with it. It's just brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course, we mustn't forget they only have 2 available for now, right?
Exactly. Only the 2.
But, so is this, or she?
Mohammed.
Yeah, so I actually can't read from this far away from the screen. But is this a new shape that's been created on the right-hand side?
Yes, the bee.
Sort of.
Well, it looks like the line of the bee, but then the 2 humps are missing.
Yeah, so I think they've like masked it into a rectangle.
Yeah.
Which is cool though, because it's again, it's kind of playing with.
Once you have your outlines, you can move stuff around.
Do anything, yeah.
It's all there. It's a quick logo, which was the exercise, right?
Quick logo. Yeah.
Yeah, in an hour and a half. That's pretty quick.
While listening to us.
Exactly. I mean, hopefully.
I might have switched off the sound.
I would have been like, what? No rhino?
This is an interesting play with color though, because it draws your eye to certain things, and I think that's a really good exercise.
Oh, it carries on there. Of course, the word keeps repeating in different. So brew reads across, and then brew is repeated. Now I see.
Yeah, that's interesting.
See, that stuff is just so. It's all made for logos.
Oh
wow.
Telegraph.
So somebody looks like.
This feels.
That looks like Holland in the late 20s.
Or like Memphis in the 70s.
No, it's more the styly thing. Yeah, and they did have those kind of typefaces also, because it was handmade. That could be handmade.
Yeah, I like that. I like the integration of the shape. It's very in Bauhaus Dessau sort of era.
That's the T down there again, and the little joyful. I'm not sure about the colors, but then what I don't know about the colors.
Again with the gold.
I think it's interesting just to see.
Klaus, then he does his own logo, right?
Ah, yes, for Klaus. Nice.
I wonder what the front bit is.
Ilu?
Ah, is that part of his name?
Klaus Bernardo de Andrade.
Ilu Klaus.
Yeah.
But I like this, the new shapes that have been created by cutting through.
Yeah. Interesting. Oh, Mulan.
This is cool. This feels more postery, but I like it.
Yeah, because
I like the depth.
There's 3 layers there, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Black, brown, and.
I would be interested to see those layers in outlines rather than in color, and then see how it starts to feel.
That's great advice.
So you mean you got transparency?
Yeah. So it almost feels like it's like a sort of slinky moving sort of thing.
Well, this is what you do when you slept on it. You get back in the morning, you do more iterations before breakfast.
Ah, yes.
This is interesting as well.
Yeah, I can see it. It makes all these patterns suddenly, because the counter shapes are there.
Japanese because of the vertical
lines.
I think
that's what it is. Yeah, and the
and
colours.
the square.
It's your favourite colours, Erik. It's your favourite.
Yeah. Well, no,
Bauhaus was a Japanese
what I said
food.
earlier, no, the counter spaces are actually lines. I mean, the counters are the space inside characters, and they're used to create a line that isn't there. It's just a counter space, but we see a white line.
Ah, that's so cool. Yes.
I like it.
There's no white line there. It's just a counter space.
It's very clean.
Which is clever.
Yeah. And because Flavia drew them so exactly, they of course all line up.
Beautifully.
This is super interesting.
I like this.
It's
quite
really
a bit.
playful.
Yeah.
So that's the 2 of them together. That's Luca's work and Flavia's work together.
And the
it looks the little lines from the Santi typeface with the Bauhaus stuff.
And it looks like it's a personal logo for
MG.
Monica Gauss.
Monica
Gauss. I like that. I like that she did a logo for herself.
I like her company name, Vector Garden. The Vector Garden.
Vector Garden, yeah.
Let's see.
Andre P.
So is this being squished?
Radio Sky. Oh yeah, very squished.
It's being squished in.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Can we zoom in on there? I can't read it this way. I'm not supposed to be. Oh, Kandinsky, of course. Yeah, that's the little thing.
Oh,
look at that. I mean,
I thought it said Radio
so
Sky.
Is,
I was like, Radio Sky.
So this is like 50% or 100 probably 200% to one
yeah.
side, or maybe 50%, I don't know.
That's
But
proper squish though.
Yeah,
Like just like
But it works,
freehand. But no,
because
it
it's
does
geometric,
really work.
it works.
Yeah.
Just one dimension.
Yeah.
That's a very beautiful little poster already there with a little, it's very delicate, I love it.
Great.
It would be interesting to see if they blew that up and take it, that takes over whole A4 and then they repeat it on top and have this sort of really thin geometric shape repeating on top of itself, getting bigger and smaller. I would be interested to see how that would work.
You can keep your head tilted. This one does it too.
Well, that's the whole point about this thing.
Exactly.
You know, you use the arbitrariness of those shapes to good effect.
This is interesting.
I love the tones in this. I think that looks really cool.
I so suck at doing that. I remember I always wanted to put tones inside some shape, and I was pulling that stupid lever over. Oh God!
Like a split.
I'm not sorry. You do this.
But this is lovely because you appreciate actually the letters really for their forms.
Yeah, because they're just they're shapes.
They feel like shapes, yeah.
All right, we have about 10 more minutes. I'm just giving you guys.
We've got to be quick. Okay.
Yes.
There we have the word classic as in crowns.
Beautiful.
See, you make a crown out of these elements.
Yeah. It's quite nice. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
we haven't seen anything like this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there is
both typed together.
There is the Bauhaus archive in Berlin. Have a building designed by Walter Gropius, which has those shed roofs on there. I don't know whether that person, Siobhan, whether Siobhan has been there. She spelled Siobhan the English way rather than the Irish way. But that could be, to me, it says the shapes of those shed roofs of the Bauhaus archives in Berlin. It may be coincidental.
I think I've been staring at the
But
Pompidou too much. It looks like those
yeah, the
vents
tubes
coming off the Pompidou.
Yeah. That's Rogers. That's not Gropius.
Oh,
See, we talked about the person earlier, right? Did you say this about the little people in there?
Yes.
The characters can be little. Oh, you did say that. They can be little people, right? Handmaid's
This
Tale.
one I think is really clever.
Bingo.
This is very clever.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Especially because of the show.
Yeah.
And they wear the habits.
It's like a Japanese tangram kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, I really like that.
Together.
I also love
Really nice.
that it's this sort of scale, this playing with scale, I think, and I actually think that's quite hard.
And the white lozenge is also part of the
Exactly.
typeface. The white lozenge itself.
It is, of course.
It's all in there.
It's beautiful.
Really cool.
My God,
Really
you're giving this
nicely
away?
done. Prince Sarma.
Do you know what would be super interesting though? Would be to see some type going all the way around this, so it feels a wee bit more like a stamp.
Very.
I wonder, you think it
let's
works
say
at an
religious
angle?
looking, yeah.
Yeah,
like
but
grid
like
kind
type
of like
on path.
like a monk.
Yeah,
type.
sure.
But maybe
I
in
wonder.
the original type, the other typeface, not the one
Oh,
that
yeah,
she's
yeah,
using.
yeah.
But you know, putting that all the way around, so it almost feels like you've got this really thick. It's almost like a stamp.
This is beautiful.
Feeling. I think it would work.
Yeah. Natalia Manich.
Ah, see, and you stagger them. You take them apart
really
and move
cool.
them
Very
over. Very clever.
interesting.
This push, I mean, we can still read it because we want to, but that is very clever.
Yeah, I like that.
Jeez, guys.
I know, this is going to be very tough. They're going to have to do some rock, paper, scissors back here.
12 angry men. See, both of them together. That's a nice. They work together.
I think it really works.
I would have never thought so, but they do.
And
They have a
this
nice
actually,
contrast.
in comparison to the other ones, I think feels quite modern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to bring it into like this sort of modern.
Yeah, I would take a bit of word space between angry and men out, but because it doesn't need that much. But other than that,
Yeah, really great entries, everyone.
Oh, this
Ooh,
is, yeah,
I like
fantastic.
that.
Really graphic.
Stuart Williams.
Really interesting.
J.A. I wish I knew what it was for.
Yeah.
well,
Maybe-
German, that would be ja.
Ja?
As in yes.
Yeah!
Ah, maybe
Who would say no to a word
No one would
like
say
this?
no to that.
But see, I mean, they all have the little, like, it always looks like a little seed on there.
Yeah,
now,
it
that,
does.
you know, sort of.
Yeah.
I was
We-
going to say, is that the original A?
That's the
That is
original A,
the
yeah.
original
Interesting.
I thought that maybe like
Put a seed.
he'd put
Yeah,
it
but-
in,
A little
created
seed,
new.
yeah.
It's in the eye of the beholder, is it not? We could
Yeah.
make it into anything.
Love
Cool.
it.
Really cool. Oh, this is Rangers. Scottish football club.
So funny.
Orange and green? Wait a minute. Isn't there a conflict?
Oh,
Celtic's green, right? Rangers is orange, or is it not?
Ranger.
I'm saying something. All of Scotland's going to hate me, sorry.
The person's
One of them
name?
is Catholic, the other one's not.
Sumayajit.
Okay, maybe. Oh, I don't know.
Oh, we won't go there. It's a religious issue in Glasgow, certainly.
No, and I'm not. I don't know anything about football.
Is that a film title, 17 Swords?
I think so.
I love this because it's starting to do this sort of drawing on the path, which is very Bauhaus, to do the sort of half semicircle typography or at an angle or.
And that is also the hashtag in that alphabet because it's thin.
Interesting.
That pattern there.
And then to fill that in.
Yeah, squared off.
That's interesting, making the hashtag your grid.
Nice job, Claire.
Cool.
It's a word I hate. Why have the W in swords, for Christ's sake? That's a dumb word, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like this. This is beautiful.
Yeah, I like this
Ruth
one.
Lamich.
I really like this one. What does this say?
We're like, what does it say? We love this. What does it say?
It says to me contour 3.
Contour
C-O-N-T-U-R. Contour is, well, that's how you spell it in German. Although,
What's the bottom?
3.
3.
Kind of looks like a shadow of the 3, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So like a pedestal kind of thing.
That's lovely. So we might, this is going to be the last one that we're going to look at. So if your submission didn't get reviewed in this session, it'll get reviewed in the next session.
Oh, good.
Yes. So this is the last one. And then you two will have to duke it out on who's going to win a year of Creative Cloud. This is going to be very difficult.
It took too long.
Krista Cape is our last entry for today. Or for this session.
My brain hurts.
I know. It's beautiful.
I have 3 favorites.
Oh, that will be next.
All right.
Okay, so leaving off, well, we'll review this one because it's in line. All right. Cooper
So that's
Schumacher.
an M flipped?
An M and an I, it looks,
Yeah, but the M is flipped. So do we still read it as MI?
I don't know, I do, but I don't.
Well, we don't know what it's for.
More
so
poster-like.
yeah.
All right,
It's still nice, I mean, how the iDot becomes a little sign on its own.
I'm going to zoom in a bit, and then I'm going to take you guys slowly through these, and you can wink at each other as to which one you want to win.
Okay, wait, hold on.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, going back through.
Favorites.
Just one.
Just one.
In 1 minute.
In
okay.
1 minute?
All right.
Oh, God.
We've got this.
Well, that little figure there is one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think
one?
the figure's really clever.
All right. Figure.
The figure, the Kandinsky.
Kandinsky.
The squash one, and the very first one. Those are my favorites.
This one. No,
No,
this one.
the
Space.
one on the right,
As
yeah.
space.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe it's unfair because it was the first one, but I also think it's really...
Well, sometimes the first is the best. You
pushing
never
it.
know. Space and
Kandinsky.
Kandinsky.
Yeah, it could be a little larger, but that number, the lozenge.
I'm going to go with,
Those are my favorites.
you guys need to choose between lozenge and space. Mainly because I make logos and Kandinsky's hard to read.
Good.
For me,
You have another one? I'm
Space and Kandinsky.
oh,
Counting
okay,
down.
We're good. Okay.
No, you go in for the third one. I'm
Or
happy
not
then.
Kandinsky, sorry, space and the lozenge.
Oh, I like
Handmaid's
the girl.
Tale.
Handmaid's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the two.
Oh, that is.
Yeah, Space and Handmaid's Tale.
Handmaid's Tale. So I think for me personally, Handmaid's Tale feels more like an actual brand identity, whereas Space feels more like an experiment.
exercise, yes,
An
I agree.
exercise.
Yeah.
I think
So I
so
think
too.
if it was to design a logo, I would say Handmaid's Tale.
Okay.
I think we have a winner.
I yield to...
No, I don't want to.
In under a minute, we have a winner.
No, within the brief, you're absolutely right. Now, this is a perfect
It's a logo.
toolkit to make
Exactly.
instant logos, almost, as we saw in an hour.
Beautiful. Oh, look, and we get fireworks. You guys, we did it. Oh, thank you so much, you guys. This has been such a pleasure to have both of you here. Type
It could have been a
designer,
lot-
poster creator.
Could have
This
been a
is
lot worse,
amazing.
couldn't it? Yeah.
Oh, it could have, yes.
Okay. Well,
Congratulations, Prince Sarma. You will be receiving a Creative Cloud subscription, and we will be here with Caterina
Not too shabby.
for the next 2 days doing poster design. This is pretty incredible. Working with both of you is like quite a dream. I mean, wow. Look at all the posters that you've gotten done so far, too.
Well, this one's not finished, so let's ignore this one.
You're like, ignore it, ignore it.
Don't look at this one. But these are finished.
So funny. I love it, though. I think that the colors are already coming to life, and
Well,
the textures
I
are
think-
quite beautiful.
Yeah, I think tomorrow we will either start to look at form or we'll start to look at typography. So today it was Joseph Albers, and we were going with his quote of, I prefer to see with closed eyes, which was this whole idea of just experimenting, being super visual and expressive. And then I think tomorrow it'll either be Paul Klee, who has this lovely sort of, if something looks wrong, it might actually be right quote, which I think is quite interesting.
I like that, especially for this type because it's so playful.
Exactly, with loads of forms in it, so.
Well, thank you so much, Caterina. Thank you, Erik, for being here, and thank you for finding those Bauhaus shapes and letter forms and having those wonderful students create them. What a joy, and what an awesome project to share with everyone.
I was very lucky to be given the project and to find that great talent. Great fun working with everybody.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone. Stay tuned. We have another great session after this, and we'll see you tomorrow as well, back with Caterina. Bye.
Peace.